Hey Bullets YouTube channel.
Hurry up, now tell us why you're here.
Jackson Storm will start at pole position with Ed Trunken, who's outside. Row 2 has Harvey Rodcap and JP Drive. I wonder if they'll lead any laps this race. And row 3 has Bubba Wheelhouse and Ryan Inside Laney. I also hope that they lead some laps this race. Row 4 has HJ Hollis, who has led some laps this season, and JD McPellar. Row 5 has Nick Shift and Aaron Clocker to his outside. I wonder how they'll do this race. And row 6 has Green Bean Carafine and Dan Garcia, who both did well in practice. Row 7 has Tim Treadless and Jim Reverick. I wonder how he'll do this race. Hopefully better. Row 8 has Richie Gunzit and Barry DePedal. I wonder how they'll do this race. And row 9 has the first non-Next Generation racer, defending champion Lightning McQueen and Pitbull Speed Racer. Row 10 has former Piston Cup champion Cal Weathers and Brick Yardley to his outside. Row 11 has Jimmy Cables, who is currently 4th in points, and Reb Meeker to his outside. Row 12 has Rev Rodages and Bobby Swift to his outside. I wonder how they'll do this race. And row 13 has Ralph Carlo, who's been having a good season this season, and Brian Sparks to his outside. Row 14 has Buck Beeringley and Todd Marcus, starting in the same row somehow. Row 15 has Lane Locke and James Garrison. What are you doing consistently being near the back? And row 16 has two of James's teammates, Jamarcus Capehart and Chip Gearings. Row 17 has Ricky Axel, who did bad in qualifying, and Paunchy Wipeout, who's outside. Row 18 has Dino Draftski and Dirksen D'Agostino. I wonder how they'll do this race. Row 19 has Terry Cargis, who historically doesn't do that well in qualifying, and Morik Hutchburn, who's outside. Row 20 has Darren Leadfoot. I wonder if he'll lead some laps this race. And Arthur Karstro, who's outside. Row 21 has Alex Blowman and Sebastian Silva, back to qualifying, and starting in 43rd is Tommy Highbanks. How are you starting in 43rd? But these 6 cars, among many others, failed to qualify for this race. Now onto the race, where Jackson Storm would lead the first 50 laps of the race. And on lap 12, Dirksen D'Agostino would be out because of an engine failure, and then Bubba Wheelhouse would take the lead on lap 50 and lead for 8 laps before Jackson Storm retakes the lead and leads for 40 more laps before Lightning McQueen would take the lead on lap 98. But only a few yards later, Jackson Storm would be back in the lead all the way until lap 158, leading for 60 laps! How does any car lead for 60 laps? Reb Meeker is 28th as of lap 158, where he accidentally wrecks Morik Hutchburn and himself. I feel bad for both of them. But Ed Trunken would take the lead from Jackson Storm on lap 159, and then Jackson Storm retakes the lead, leading all the way until lap 200, where HJ Hollis would take the lead. He would lead for 16 laps before Jackson Storm would take the lead again, leading 40 more laps. Then JP Drive would take the lead, leading for 3 laps before Jackson Storm takes the lead again, leading all the way until lap 303, where Chip Gearings would be out because of an engine failure. This lets Tim Treadless take the lead after the restart on lap 304. A few yards later, Aaron Clocker would take the lead. He would only lead for about 10 yards before Jackson Storm takes the lead again and leads the next 50 laps before Lightning McQueen would take the lead once again, leading the field until lap 355, where Jackson Storm would take the lead again and lead the final 45 laps of the race to win the 2016 Datashift 400. And Bob Cutlass, who has actually had this look for a while, and after the race says, "Lucky number 7, in reaction to Jackson Storm winning his 7th race in a row. Lightning McQueen would finish 2nd this race, followed by Jimmy Cables in 3rd, Dino Draftski in 4th, Cal Weathers 5th, HJ Hollis 6th, Tim Treadless 7th, Aaron Clocker 8th, Ed Trunken 9th, and Green Bean Carafine rounding out the top 10. Terry Cargis is the last car to finish on the lead lap, finishing 39th this race. I already mentioned the top 10 where How is Jackson Storm just winning so easily? And there are still stock cars beating next generation racers, which means that the next generation racers still have to compete. Bubba Wheelhouse was unlucky to miss out on getting a top 10. Harvey Rodcap did not lead any laps this race, but he does finish 12th. JD McPillar, Barry DePedal, and Dan Garcia round out the top 15, with Bobby Swift missing out on a top 15 finish, somehow beating JP Drive and Nick Shift. Brick Yardley finishes 19th, and Ryan Inside Laney rounds out the top 20, with Richie Gunzit earning 100 points this race by finishing 21st. Pitbull Speed Racer Ricky Axel, Darren Leadfoot, and Jim Reverick round out the top 25. Jim Reverick, you need to do better. You are a next generation racer. Paunchy Wipeout Brian Sparks, Jamarcus Kakart finishing in the same position as his number. James Gearson and Rev Rodages round out the top 30. Ralph Carlo finishes 31st ahead of Alex Blowman, who's been near the back all season. Buck Beeringly, Lane Locke, and Sebastian Silva rounding out the top 35. Tommy Highbanks, Arthur Carstro, Todd Marcus, and Terry Cargus, all very lucky to finish the race on the lead lap. And here is the top 20 in points, with the top 3 being unchanged, and Jimmy Cables continuing to hold on to 4th, ahead of Brick Yardley by nearly 80 points. Tim Treadless, Harvey Rodcap, Ed Trunken, Red Meeker, and Aaron Clocker rounding out the top 10. Just missing out on the top 10 is JD McPillar, followed by Ricky Axel, James Garrison, who luckily is still in the top 20 despite a few mediocre races. Ryan Inside Laney is 14th, and rounding out the top 15 is Dan Garcia. Kevin Carvick and Martin Carricks Jr. are still in the top 20 despite missing multiple races. Murray Clutchburn, Ralph Carlo, and Todd Marcus round out the top 20. 76 points ahead of Chip Gearings in 21st.
Remember to press the notifications button, which goes ring, ring, ring after you press it. And lightning strikes back, and that's as if you subscribed, of course. And thank you for watching this entire video.
Jackson Storm, you only need to lead one lap to win a Piston Cup race. You did this in your debut race. Please leave some laps for other racers to lead. And even if you want to lead the most laps, you can still lead only half of the laps and still lead the most laps. And the 24th race of the 2016 Piston Cup season, the video covering that race will be coming out soon enough. We here at the KA Bullets Piston Cup YouTube channel stand with Ukraine. Slava Ukraini, Heroyam Slava. Nechai Shvitsia Darotsya, Ukraini Peromoha. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to the heroes. May Ukraine be granted victory very soon.